unmute themselves at will, whether or not they are a co-host. So if you need my assistance in controlling things, although I think you'll be just fine, you just let me know.
No. Yeah, really appreciate your help, Seth, and as I said, Andrew was very helpful in getting us set up. An A+ job.
Thank you.
All right, so I'd like to call the meeting of the Waterways Commission for today, which is February 1st, to order. Before we begin, I'd like to read our town commitment statement on diversity, equity, and inclusion. The Waterways Commission is committed to providing an environment of respect during meetings. We ask all members to interact in a polite manner, even when there is disagreement. We value the participation of our community and want all participants, including marginalized and minoritized communities, to feel welcomed and respected. We ask our committee members and all who participate to commit to these standards to support and respect our community. Andrew, can you hit that got it button? Thank you so much. Okay. Yep. So I'd like to accept the agenda and as modified, I'm going to add a 2A after the acceptance of the agenda, a longtime member of the Scituate community, waterfront community, in particular recently passed away, Joe Noble. And so I'd like to add a little thing for Joe here as 2A. Other than that, do I have a motion to accept the agenda?
Motion to accept the agenda.
Second.
The motion and there's accepted. Alicia, by the way, feel free to just yell out if you're not able to hear or catch something.
Okay, thank you.
So there's a motion and an acceptance. All in favor of accepting the agenda? Aye.
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 There'll be a roll.
Are you supposed to? Yeah, roll
Yeah,
call
we'll,
with.
we'll do a roll call here. Brian Kelly,
Aye.
Dave Sinkowski.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Dave, Rick, aye.
Stephen, aye.
Stephen, aye. Okay. Unanimous, yes. So I would like to, as I said, Joseph Noble passed away, very familiar, friendly face around the harbor for a long time. To people of all ages, colors, stripes, and everything. When I told my kids about this morning when I got the news, and their ages 22 to 17, I guess, something like that. They remember Joe from when they were like 12, 10, 8, 7. They were like, oh man, that's just too bad. He was a nice guy. So I just like a moment of silence if we can in memory of our friend Joe. Thank you.
Yeah, he was a great asset to the town. You know, he did so much for, you know, adaptive skiing up the mountains for kids, and then down here, just kind of general ambassador to the town of Scituate. When people were coming in, visiting the town, right? Welcomed everyone in, told them what restaurants to go to. Just a great guy.
Just an all-around solid guy. Anybody else have anything they want to say?
I believe you worked with our master for about 20 or 25 years as an assistant.
After a long career in the school district.
Yeah, it was, yep.
Assistant principal and principal and. All right, thank you, Joe, for all you did. Okay, so Alicia, are you clear on who's in the room here? And certainly you can see who's on Zoom.
Yes.
Okay, tremendous. All right. So I'd like to move on to the minutes were duly edited and distributed, the minutes from December 7th. I have a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to accept the minutes for December 7, 2022.
I thought I saw one correction on Frank Maraki, which would be under. Oh, right, I looked at it quickly and I thought his name might have been spelled wrong, so.
I thought I caught that.
M-A-R.
Oh, no, it's mariachi, yeah, so that should be a slight spelling change on a Harbor Master Report, item C.
Yeah.
All I know is it's not right, and I don't know how to spell it right.
Yeah, I would say the same. Maybe
It's
we'll-
M-I-R?
Can you do that one more time?
M-I-R-A-R-C-H-Y.
Okay. Were you able to get that?
Mirar, M-I-R-A-R-C-H-I. Thank you. Okay. So there's a, slight edit, but there's a motion. Is there a second? To accept as amended?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay, we'll do a roll call again. Brian, you're gonna be the starting roll guy here all day. Brian, Kelly?
Aye.
Dave Sinkowski?
Muted.
Okay,
I have found the button. Aye.
great, thank you. Mike Gibbons?
Aye.
Another Dave? You can call me Dave too, but my name is really Rick.
Stephen, I,
I've got a unanimous yes on that. That goes over there. Where did my agenda go?
good one. Rick, I grabbed one off the desk because I thought you wrote.
Oh, thank you very much.
One on there.
That's where I went. Okay. Thank you, Harbor Master. Anything else you want to steal, Mike?
No, that's done. I'll do it.
Okay, correspondence. We do have two matters of correspondence. One of them by Mr. Eric Hoos, which we'll read into as we get to item 6A, but it will be duly entered into the official record. I'm going to read the other one, which is short. It's to Steve Moan, Fire Chief John Murphy, and myself, from Dave Ball, the Cedar Point Association. Getting an echo here. It's not me. Okay, it's about the condition of the outer jetty at Scituate Harbor. It's short. Hi all, the purpose of my writing to you is to let you know the rock on the outer jetty just before the beacon continues to become more unraveled each year. So much rock has been moved now that it is not possible to walk on the top surface of the jetty to reach the beacon. Coastal storm we experienced last month did more damage to that area. Extensive jetty maintenance was done under the direction of the Army Corps of Engineers about 5 years ago. I'm hoping the town will notify the Army Corps about this problem. It is a concern for the town as well because it seems like more wave action is getting into the harbor. We saw clear indications of that during the coastal storm on December 23rd. Also last summer, a person fell at that part of the jetty and had to be treated by the Scituate Fire Department. Called the Point Allenton Coast Guard Station today just to get the name of the person in charge. They want to know the purpose of my call, so I gave them a summary. They said they talked to Mr. Moan and let the Army Corps know about it. Sincerely, David Ball, who writes in his capacity as president of the Cedar Point Association. Do you have an update on that?
Yeah, last year we, with Corey Miles, the Coastal Resource Officer, and John Murphy, we reached out to the Army Corps. They knew about the issue. We've since reached out to them again. We had some drone footage that we sent them, and they're gonna put it on their to-do list, but they do not have any funds at this time. But they do know about it. They knew about it last year.
Okay. Any other comments about that? Okay. Moving on to the next agenda item 5, it's just an administrative reminder to members of the board to make sure that they complete their conflict of interest and ethics online training. This is an important aspect of our participation in public and civic government. So I'm just reminding everybody on the committee, and this reminder is being extended directly to myself as well, to complete this online training. Also, I see that I thought I saw that
Howie just dropped off.
Mr. Kreuzberg was on and now he's off. Okay. All right. All right, Harbor Master report. I'm gonna turn over to you. The very first item is marina rules, contract, and dock boxes. Probably
Yes.
dock boxes last of those three.
They're all one and the same, unless you want to just take them at the end.
No, go
It's up
ahead.
to you.
Go ahead.
Marina rules and regulations, I brought copies of the new updated marina rules and regulations. They've been updated a few times since 2015. The last time they were updated was about a year ago, 2 years ago, by Waterways, when they changed the insurance regulations per the town's insurance company, and the requirements by the town's insurance company. Also, Waterways wanted to also include same verbiage that's in the mooring rules and regulations about boat ownership, and that obviously that these can't be transferred to other people. So that's part of it. And as you kind of go through it, you'll also see in the old mooring marina rules and regulations that dock boxes, appendages, gear, anything is prohibited from the marina without permission of the harbor master. Since I've been here in 2015, I have yet to give anyone permission to put anything in. It's never really come up. But we did, several years ago, we had someone had an issue with screws that were left behind. Person cutting himself. My concern is we're just going to be completing a $3.5 million rebuild of the Cole Parkway Marina. And it's going to be a beautiful state-of-the-art facility that is going to be, accessible to all people, whether you're, disabled or not, whether you're elderly, whether you're young. That's why we put in, the new 80-foot long gangway. We're making the, docks much more stable, much more accessible. My concern is people walking down or moving into their slip, dragging down their dock box, placing it behind or in front of their boat, depending on how they pull their boat in, and then securing it with screws down into the deck. There's 3-phase 240 volt going through those docks. I believe it's 600 amps at Cole Parkway, and they're single phase 240 volts over at Maritime Center. Also, there's 6 conductors over there. There's 7 conductors that run up and down the docks at Maritime Center. When you put in these dock boxes, it restricts access. The new docks are the old docks used to be 7 feet wide. The new docks are, for the most part, 6 feet wide. If you put a 2-foot dock box on one boat and a dock box on the other side of the boat, you're going to have now 2 feet. So all that accessibility that we've been trying to accomplish goes out the window. The other problem, somebody ever got electrocuted. I just want it on the record. I think it's dangerous to allow people to just, go down there with a screw gun and start fastening, putting screws into docks. And it doesn't matter whether you're screwing in a fender to the side of the float or to the new decking. It's a brand new $3.5 million facility. And I think there's plenty of room on boats to store things, whether it's soap, buckets, mops, life jackets, water ski, whatever you store in the dock box, you can find a place in boats today and store it on board. There's places to hang your hoses on the pedestals. There's places to hang your, dock wire, your boat conductor, shore power cords. There's also, Waterways requested internal pile guides in the docks. They're also there. The new pedestals, the electric pedestals are there. All this, takes up valuable real estate. And again, just to allow people to go down and start drilling in and fastening, down dock boxes where if they took a few minutes, I believe they could find a spot for the gear that they're looking to leave behind on the docks. It's the same thing with screwing fenders to the side. Hang the fenders off the side of your boat. That's what the cleats are for. Docks are going to have a deep fender all the way around them. They're going to have rounded ends on the fingers, so there's no need for dock wheels. It was a challenge for the dock manufacturer to come up with that solution, but they did. And I truly believe that someone could really get hurt, electrocuted, or if somebody just pulls up their dock box and leaves the screw behind and catches their foot, and you're just gonna end up with holes all over your docks.
Okay, so, thank you, Stephen. Before I turn to the audience, are there any comments from committee or other members of the board? By the way, you folks online can still hear me okay? I changed one of my computer settings because I heard an echo. I realized the echo was me. My apologies. Okay, so we're groovy there. Any comments from board members?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Mike and then Dave Sinkowski.
Yeah, okay. So I think when this topic came up last year, maybe November, it was a discussion point, and then specifically the dock box, I think we've already kind of agreed to the language of the code of conduct, right? So those are the two changes to the rules that you're proposing, right?
Well, the code of conduct is going to be a separate item that will go out with the contract.
Yes, next agenda item.
Okay.
And in fact, I'm glad you said changes because I just want to make sure I fully understood,
Yeah.
if I may. The 2015 contract agreement as number 15. So this contract has been in effect for a while, as number 15. Has language that is identical to 17 in the 2023 Marina contract, which is the item that is in reference to dock boxes.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
there's no
This is not something I made up.
No,
This was
yeah.
in place long before I got here.
So there's no change here in dock box as written in the contract, but it certainly sounds like there's a change in enforcement.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure my understanding is there. Okay,
Okay.
Mike, you wanted to continue your point?
I did. So last year when it was discussed and there was a lot of feedback on it, we thought the floats behind the boats, not the fingers, but the floats, we thought they were going to remain 7 feet wide like they were in the mast, right? And there was still a question about accessibility. Once we realized that those floats are now 6 feet wide, right? I don't see how you can put a dock box, on one side of it, and a dock box on the other side, and then still maintain a clear passageway. Because even in the past, you couldn't get a dock cart through. Dock carts are roughly 36 inches wide,
Around there,
somewhere around there.
30, 32, 36.
Yeah, and you couldn't get down the docks sometimes if hoses and some other stuff were in the way, because it was just constrained. If you take a foot off of that, I don't know how you can have a marina that gives you handicap compliance, right? Which we've gone ahead and made the fingers wider and done all this other stuff, right? How do you go less than 36 inches on the docks, the main floats? and still give access to handicap. So that was kind of one point that, so I don't think anyone realized it when we were debating it last year, right? That it was gonna be a 6-foot float, but I think at this point, I don't see how you do it for one, because you can't really tell this boat here that you can have a dock box behind it, but the boat that's directly behind you can't have one, you know, because it would be a first come, first serve. It's really just not fair to the people in the dock, or giving you the handicap access that I think we're supposed to have, or should have, right?
Or allowing one user or one marina to have it and the other marina not to have it.
Right,
That's right, you
yeah.
gotta be equal in that.
I do think, and correct me if I'm wrong, are we the only marinas that had dock boxes in the harbor?
Bowman's had them, but I think, he's gonna eliminate the dock boxes.
Yeah.
If we eliminate the dock boxes.
Well,
The
that's,
mill had, fish stations, but they were owned by Mr. Duval.
Yeah,
And that was along the wall itself.
right.
He did not allow dock boxes,
So those are just my,
or at least the boaters didn't have any.
yeah.
How's that?
Dave Sinkowski? You're on mute.
Thank you. I just remind everyone that we did have the public come in September to voice their views on this thing, and they felt that they were kind of shuttered out and marginalized is the word I'd use. And matter of fact, some of the feedback I received from the public was that they felt that they spoke up that might even be retribution. So I think in this case, if you just allow me just a second to explain my view on this, the harbor master on the last meeting listed some 5 items, and I think the first 4 are all would be manageable if the harbor master and we came up with a system where we installed these dock boxes. But at the end of the day, the 5th item, the last item, was as Mike was just pointing out, that the docks are now 1 foot more narrow and will not pass ADA. So I think it's kind of over. I will say, however, that when we were designing these docks a year ago, this was known. This was a means to the end. Or when we were driving piles or designing piles 2 years ago. So I think this all should have been discussed some time ago. We should have allowed the public to have their say. And I don't think this is our brightest moment as the waterways. And I think we can do better, but it doesn't matter because, as Mike said, we are where we are now. The docks are not wide enough and they need to be ADA compliant. So I support the conclusion, all right? The means to the end. But I'm not very proud of how we got here. And I'll leave it to the rest of you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Dave. I will also just add to your point that, and I know you just made this in passing, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here, but you referenced that some people felt that maybe they couldn't speak up freely for whatever reason or another. I'm sorry to hear that because I think that concern is most likely unfounded. The Waterways Commission and the Harbor Master have behaved, with impeccable credentials on this and have welcomed all conversation that we have. I perhaps agree with you that this is not our most shining moment overall and that communications can always be improved. But if anybody has some misperceptions or misconceptions about due process and intimidation or whatever the word was, just let me know and I can work with that.
Yeah, I'll just answer to you, if I may. One last thing
Sure.
is I don't think we did anything wrong. The problem is the public is not aware of how these boards work. I certainly wasn't 5 years ago. And
Sure.
they walk into these meetings, and I think it's up to us to nurture and help them understand how the process works. And that's part of the shortcoming. And I was not there that September meeting, and I heard this feedback, and I was most disappointed that, like you and all of us, I'm sure, to hear the public felt that way. but it's on us to do a better job.
Yep, no, I appreciate your point, and I think you stated it very well. So Dave's on Zoom, trying to alternate. Any board member in this room have anything else to say before I go back to that? It's Dave. Howie, Brian? You're good? Okay. Okay, we did receive a letter from Mr. Bruce.
Eric.
Yeah, Eric, okay, well. And so I am gonna turn to you first. Would you like me to read your letter, or do you want to just, I mean?
If everyone had a chance to read it, I mean, you did a really good job. I appreciate you kind of highlighting what the concerns are. I mean, under your leadership, the harbor's gone through a bunch of transformations, in my opinion, all to the good. I'm a retired Coast Guard guy, warrant officer, have 100 credentials, but the one I'm most proud of is being a 100-ton captain and driving a ton of boats. I came to Scituate with my family to retire here from the Coast Guard. I literally drew a compass around Boston and said, these towns are good and this one sucks, and this was it. So here I am.
It's got too many trees in it, you're not interested.
Yeah, and I've been in the harbor since I've been here, and that was the #1 reason why we came here. And I finally am in a position to have a really nice boat. And again, I thank you helping me get that into the harbor nice and snug, and all the assistance you gave and letting me pursue my dream of eventually following son.
Yeah.
And I heard all your points, and I understand that some of the things are done with dock boxes. One of my other fortes is I'm a certified safety professional, I hold credentials, and I understand all this ADA language, 36 clearances. I understand lockout, tag out, and all the things that come with high voltage regulations as I worked for Clean Harbors for several years in this space. So with administrative and engineering controls, we could mitigate a bunch of these things. I'll start with ADA access, right? I mean, as a disabled veteran, I'm in that space quite a bit sometimes, and I work with disabled people. I've had them on my boat. Any disabled person that's making their way down to a vessel to go boating is determined to get on that vessel, and not a lot is going to stop them, typically, right? What's going to stop them is our 12-foot tidal surge and 45% grade on that ramp, which nobody's going down in an electric wheelchair or a regular one. So tidal consideration is there, but in regards to clearance and access, right? In my experience, I've seen dock boxes offset by a foot, by manufacturer. They cut the 6-foot plank to 8 feet and they hang it off and they push the dock boxes back, allowing for the 36-inch clearance. That's usually a good fix for that. And I understand the different materials and the plastics and the screws and the damage they can impact or inflict on a dock system, but skids are some sort of other secondary sacrificial discardable material could easily be done. And, engineering out with small setting screws, less than 3/4 of an inch or 10 millimeters or however you want to discuss that, would never penetrate through the skid and nor the planking into the deck. Electrical safety comes to mind. Stephen, to your points with the 220, 640, whatever phase vaults you have down there, they're usually in chaseways and in PVC tubes. They're very diagrammed. The docks are contemporary. They're not, mom and pop in someone's backyard. I'm sure they have electrical chaseways and different avenues. I'm sure there's schematics that could easily be followed. And with some S5 and visual management, marks could be made on docks. So definitely do not drill, tap, or touch areas. And with some guidance with the harbor master and some schematics, there could be some administrative controls and a process to come in and help place and set docks. You could actually create revenue from the docks, but I hate to even say these words, imposing a fee similar to the fuel fee that we pay to the onboard fuel on our boats at the dock, and some sort of ticketing and processing thing. We use storage. As a captain, I equate my dock box, and I'll stop here, I think, unless just kind of looking at my notes here. As a captain of a boat, taking souls on board and being responsible for lives, you're not necessarily going to keep everything on your boat. And I do disagree with there's room on a boat to keep everything. I mean, I'm kind of the go-to guy at the finger dock in my dock. In my dog box, I have about a dozen different maintenance kits, from crimpers to electrical things to heat shrink, and all the tools that you would need to fix something on your boat. I'm proud to say I provided service to the guys on my dock, and I fixed whatever's broken there. And I would not keep all that stuff on my boat, nor would I keep the scuba gear, where I've retrieved at least a dozen phones off the bottom of the harbor for people, and unfouled a few props for folks as well. As a diver, and I'll leave on this, Linus and a couple of the other boats are divers. We keep our dive gear in those dive lockers, you know, and our dive in those dock boxes. And it's wicked convenient to keep that stuff there. And I think if you find an outlaw dock boxes in entirety on the marina, boaters are crafty, they'll find other places to stash their stuff. So, you know, dock boxes are, like I said, like a trunk of your car. You got all the stuff you never want, but it's there and it's accessible. And thank you for your time.
You know, thank you for your thoroughness and taking the time to write the letter and to speak here. Before we end this agenda, I don't want to circle back to you about something else, but do we have other comments from anybody in the room? Any audience members in the room? Any audience members in the TV land? Sorry, I'm tired. Zoom land. Please state your name and address, sir.
Ed Basham, 94 Old Oak Road, Scituate. I agree with Eric. There's a lot of stuff in the dock boxes that you just don't want any boating times, extra life jackets if you get a party or something like that. I'm more than willing to make that accessibility between dock boxes, like you can slide the dock box back a half a foot, and the overhang is not gonna bother anything that's in the dock box.
Right.
You know, and now you get your space you're looking for from 7-foot dock to 6-foot dock. And on our dock, there's only 7 dock boxes, and they're not in front of each other, they're staggered.
Yeah.
And actually, they're only on one side.
Yep.
And, I mean, from Scituate Waterways, we were planning years ago to put a dock box at the bottom of the ramp for launches, instead of going, hey, go get the battery pack, this boat's dead, we need some steering fluid, we gotta get this, we need a battery. And it just saves that running back and forth. I mean, we were contemplating the game box down here to save a lot of running around, pumps, boats sinking, anything like that. But there's just stuff in that gang box that I really don't want on my. I mean, I don't need all the washing equipment when I go out sailing for a weekend. There's no place I'm gonna stop to wash the boat here.
Yeah.
There's just stuff like that, and the extra life jackets and the dock lines for storms. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've told people just go down my dock box, grab out the line, throw on your boat, there, you know?
Yeah, there's no doubt dock boxes serve a very useful purpose, but
I
there's
mean, if you
also,
haven't got a dock box.
Yep.
90% of the marinas up in the whole coast, I've got another facility someplace, you've got a storage facility someplace on the land, you know? You own storage facility 9, you know, stick as much stuff as you can in it, but we haven't got any of that.
oh, thank you, Eddie. So I don't want to get involved in, back and forth too much, but I do want to give the harbor master a chance to, if there's any new information that you've heard here, that would suggest a slight modification or anything, or
I mean, I'm concerned about electrocution. And, however the select board, wants to go on this is fine with me.
Yeah.
And we'll let it be known. I'm concerned with people getting electrocuted. I'm also concerned with allowing people just to go down there and start drilling holes in a brand new facility.
I could add.
Whether there's, it doesn't change my day,
Yeah,
it has no real bearing on my life.
I could work, I mean, I'm more than willing and I'm committed to, and have passion on this, to work as an external free consultant with NFPA regulations, which is fire protection, coding with electrical safety, and help you guys mark and diagram out those docks and get them stamped by a certified engineer to say placing this material in this fashion in this space would pose no harm or foul to person or property.
So what I'm going to suggest here, is sort of a solution, but not really a solution. But I'm actually drawn to the fact that the language in 2023 is no different from previous years. So there's actually no change here, it is just enforcement. And so what I would like to do is, because personally, not that it matters, I'm completely split right down the middle. I think I completely understand the value of dock boxes. I also completely understand the value of brand new marina. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to be, you know, what the materials are, what it looks like, until you actually get out there and see it. So what I would like to propose is, at least for this year, we continue as is with the harbor masters enforcement, enhanced enforcement. But I would also like that start, you know, like sometime in June, I'd like to go down there myself, or we all could go down there at separate times. I'd like to go there with you, Eric, and the harbor master, take a look and see if there is some things that we could do for the following year and see exactly what the impact would be. If the fact that there are more bumpers around the edges of the new docks and a bunch of other things, I think once we actually see it laid out, there might be some dead-end corners where dock box could be, you know, not an impingement on any access or things like that. But I'm not willing to without seeing it all laid out, you know, approve or try to change the language, you know, at this point in time. But I just do really want to say, so, you know, Nolan, I got a boat over in the other marina over there by Eddie, and all over those docks. I completely understand the point, but I also see the point there. That's just me. And so, you know, does any other commission member have anything to say, or anybody else in the room? Because I do want to look at this, right? But I don't want to just make a judgment right now. Anything else? Okay. Mr. Kreuzberg.
I'm hearing you right. For this season, we're going to go with what we've already decided and voted on, and that would be no dock boxes.
Yes.
And I kind of agree with what you're saying. If the harbor master could come back with a standard for dock boxes, where they should be placed and how, and can supervise that, and can supervise the installed method of these dock boxes, maybe we might be able to accommodate the access that we need and meet the requirements that he has, not to just have the Wild West atmosphere in placing these dock boxes. So maybe the harbor master could come back with an alternative. You know, this is the way they'll be set. I will supervise that, and I'll supervise the placement. Just a thought.
Yeah, and so just to reiterate, you know, Eric, in June, reach out, and I'd like to go down, we can walk around, not in May because they're still figuring everything out and we're all too busy and so on, but I'm committed to looking at it and, you know, myself and seeing what we can do, if not this year, but setting something up for, you know, the following year.
Okay, thank you.
All right. The other thing
I'm sorry, quick correction on Howie.
Yeah.
I applaud his input, but there was no vote. There was no discussion, discourse for the public. So you mentioned we voted, there was no vote, just to be clear.
Thank you. I stand corrected. I thought in December we voted, but I stand corrected.
I don't recall if there was a formal vote or not, but there was certainly a sense of the board expressed. So Dave, thank you for that correction.
If I can appeal to the board, right,
Yes.
we're in February, if we could do this review, at least on the tabletop, with some schematics and some stuff, that takes a little time. And instead of a walkthrough, I mean, we're gonna
For
see
me,
boats and docks, you know.
Yeah, I understand the point. For me, I really want to walk it and see it.
Understood, but at some point, the administration of that would have to occur,
Oh, yeah.
and that could occur at any time prior, both.
I wasn't, Kevin Norton,
Yeah.
8th Angley. I wasn't around for the actual design of this.
Yeah.
But I have done a lot of work, you know, with composites.
Yeah.
You know, and the composite decking that's used on most of these, you can't protrude, you can't, if you put a screw through it, you have to plug it.
Yeah.
Or the material gets, you know, it gets destroyed over the years.
Yeah.
It starts to mushroom
Yeah.
and it chips away. So I mean, I can see from the town's point, if I was spending this kind of money, and you wanted to keep this for a long time, that, not allowing things to be screwed into it would be, definitely very important.
Right.
So, and skids and everything like that, even if you're going in a 1/4 inch, any of that composite decking, you can't break, once you break the skin of it, you broke the skin of it.
Right.
So you really would have to have the composite there, and you'd have to practice on it, and you'd have to figure out a way to attach to it. You can't just 1/4 inch screws, 10 millimeter screws, it doesn't really matter. Once you protrude, you're damaging it, especially with salt water.
Yeah, right, and there may be an alternative way, but that's
Yeah,
one of the
maybe
things, like, I
5200
wanna
or-
actually see the stuff, look at
When
it.
you have it laid out, you
look at
could
the
probably,
spacing.
you could play with it.
Yeah.
But it would definitely take some playing with it.
Mr. Bishop,
I just thought something, if you get this composite slippery plastic and you've got a yacht down the dock and you've got stairs to get access on and off, what's gonna keep those from slipping out of the way without security to the dock? If you step off your boat, you're pushing. Everything's going.
well, that'll be a separate issue for the harbor master to address.
So we have a lot of stairs and access
Yeah.
boxes to get on your boat.
All right, so I think we're here, we are advisory to the selectmen, so if this gets to the selectmen, then.
I just want the selectmen to know my concerns,
Yeah.
so
And
that
communicate
at
with
some
us.
point it's not, why didn't you tell us?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
All right, so we'll consider this closed up. What I wanted to finally say to you is, we meet the first of every month, first Wednesday of each month, plus or minus. The agendas are all posted, publicly located. We kind of have waterways groupies that come and attend. We'd love input. A person with your qualifications and commitment is always welcome.
Thank you,
We
sir.
also have associate members, and we always seem to be looking for new members on a particular cycle, so love to welcome you as a sort of a semi-new, at least, whatever, Scituate guy, to the waterways environment, because a person with your skills and qualities is,
No, the work you here do is important,
Yeah.
so it's a good cause. I appreciate everyone's time on this.
Yeah, that's good. All right, thank you. There are some other agenda items. Steve, do you have any other updates? The code of conduct would be
Code of
next.
conduct, at the last meeting, I was asked to expand out code of conduct. Just so everybody knows, I started off with the code of conduct, it was about 2 sentences. I worked with a member of Waterways who's an attorney, and it got expanded upon under the advice of Waterways. It was sent to town council. They expanded upon it again. They thought it was a good idea to have. And then when I brought it back, I was asked to send it out to not only the municipal marina patrons, but also the mooring holders and any user of the town pier. So that is basically, it just changed the name from municipal marina to town pier permit holder or mooring permit holder.
So there's basically 3 documents.
3 documents,
Depending on who you are, depends on what you get
what you get.
for a document. So,
But essentially, it's the same code of conduct, it's just.
Yeah, it's what came back from, the only thing that was added was a printed name and a date. So each year, when the contracts go out, these documents get signed along with the contract, just so that everybody knows that, what's going on and, just be calm down there.
Treat people with respect,
That's all.
especially staff in the town.
Yeah, and the code of conduct, he goes to, people on the next boat over or,
treating each other
yeah.
Yeah.
and waterways members. Any comments, Dave or Mike here?
I would say, I think last meeting in December, we approved the one for the marinas,
We
right?
did.
Did it change since then?
No, but I think you should just, approve it, all 3 documents,
Yeah,
just so it's done on one,
Yeah. okay.
Before we get there, any board comments from Zoom land? Okay. Any comments from people, non-board members out in Zoom, who want to comment, public people? It's redundant, but. Public people. Anybody here in the room want to comment? All right, so I'll entertain a motion to accept the 3 codes of conduct covering the municipal marinas, town pier permit holder, and mooring permit holder. I think we can do it in one motion as long as it has 3 specific phrases in there. So the motion would be that do you want us to phrase this as a?
You can forward the 3 documents to regarding the code of conduct for the board.
Yeah, okay. Right.
Purple.
So the motion would be, the Waterways Commission supports the proposed code of conducts for the town of Scituate municipal marinas, the town pier permit holders, and a mooring permit holder to be forwarded to the Board of Selectmen with our recommendation for approval. Lisa, did you get that close enough? I assume she did.
Yes.
Yep, thank you. Okay, so that's the motion. Is there a someone to make that motion?
Wow.
I'll make the motion.
All right, thank you, Dave. Deneen makes the
Oh, I thought
motion.
you were gonna have to repeat the whole.
No, is there a second?
The motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Yeah. All right. You guys are always looking at me to make the motions before. So
All in favor?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Wait,
Aye.
Brian, Howie, Dave, they're all aye. Mike,
Aye.
another Dave, and Rick.
And
Aye.
Stephen. Aye.
And Steve. All right.
I generally don't vote, but it's unanimous, it's okay.
Okay, any update on Cole Parkway dock replacement project, sir?
Yeah, so the Cole Parkway, Dockway Marina project, the docks are under construction. I received some photographs, either late yesterday or today. They look great. My plan is to go down at the end of next week to take a look at, some of the docks. And they're gonna start to be delivered either the end of next week or the beginning of the week after. So we are moving right on schedule or a little bit ahead. They look fantastic. So it's going along quite nicely. Barring any new pandemic, we should be good to go.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the harbor master from commission members here in the room?
Just one for me. So today I saw there was emails that went out to reassign.
Yeah, we started
Yeah.
sending out emails to, and Ellen's doing them in order.
Yeah.
Based on the slip number. So she started out slip number 1 and, so you may, if you have 2 boats, you may get a message today and then in a week and a half, you might get another message.
Okay. So you're finding are there a lot of reassignments? We're just trying to get our heads around.
Well,
I'm already getting.
we had
I'm
somebody-
already getting lots of phone calls.
We've gotten calls
Yeah.
as well. We had got a call from one gentleman that was up in arms that, his slip had moved. And he called back about 20 minutes later and he said, no, my slip's in the exact same place.
Oh, really?
So he was sorry that, he just, called us and was upset about that his slip had moved. We tried to move as few people as possible, but we did have to move boats to make everything work the way it needs to work. We tried to limit the amount of movement. Mike Beers worked tirelessly on it. It took him probably a month and a half or 2 months, going back and forth between aerial photos and information that we've collected over the years, and Googling manufacturers of boats to, double check beams.
So would you say 25% of the boats move? I'm just trying to get a feel.
I honestly don't know. I left that up to Mike Pierce.
Is there a rendering down at the harbor master's office for people that wanna stop in
Yeah.
and have a look?
Yeah, there's so this year we used to have these, crappy wooden frames that held the maps of the marinas. So this year I bought 2 nice aluminum frames that you lock and put under glass, and that way they don't fall off the wall and break. And you can actually see, we'll give you the location. And Ellen's actually sending out a map of the marina, I believe. There's a picture of the map of the marina that shows you locate, or gives you the location number, and you can find it on a map.
Yeah, no, there's a PDF that comes with the email. So that's, yeah.
Any questions from people on Zoom? Brian Kelly?
Yeah, Stephen, so I wasn't clear. Did you say that you don't have a number of people that may have been moved?
No, I do not.
But were any people moved from one marina to the other?
One. There was one person moved.
And how did that person take that?
I don't know. We have not heard from that person yet.
Okay.
Maybe still
We
don't know.
did, what we were trying to do is just get everybody in and try to move as few people as possible. And get all the slips and all the boats that should be in those particular slips in those slips.
Okay, thank you.
Alicia, just for your notes, Mr. Brian Cronin has joined us.
Thanks.
Can we call you Dave? Okay.
Quick
Any,
question.
yeah, go ahead, Dave.
All right, just further to Brian Kelly's question. So I'm assuming that we haven't informed voters yet they've been moved. So when they ask who's complaining or knows that they've been moved, unless you come down to your harbor master and look on the wall, as you say, you wouldn't know anyways, I assume, right?
We are reaching out to all the customers, all the marina tenants, and sending them a PDF of the marina, and we're giving them their slip number.
Okay.
So they can go to the PDF and look.
Right.
So Dave, I get
Okay.
a bunch of inquiries today from people, and so I happened to go in and check my own email, and that's where I saw my email from Alan, so just FYI. They were
No,
going
I
up.
haven't seen it. I'll go look. A quick question. All the outside slips, I believe, have 20-foot wide berths. Is that what? They're doubles, I understand, but they're about 20 feet wide.
27?
There's
27 feet.
27s, 28s and 27s. Or 27s and 24s.
So will the harbor master and police boats remain on the outside? I'm just, the reason why I ask is traditionally they're
Harbor
8.5
master-
foot deep.
Boats are in the shorter finger slips on the outside.
But 27 feet wide, whatever that number was.
Yeah, we have one of our boats is 13 foot wide, and the smaller Brunswick Impact is, I think, 10.5 feet wide.
Okay.
And then the police boat stayed outside, and the police boat is now in the same, they're side by side with the Coast Guard boat.
So the Coast Guard's now moved outside also.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Questions from the audience? Comments from the audience? On Zoom or
TJ here.
Oh, TJ, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Stephen, and for the group, I got an email too. Just want to thank Ellen and Mike for that. Very kind, explanatory, and that map really, really helps. So I think your office did a really good job of communicating that out.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, TJ. Okay, continuing to use, Stephen, comprehensive dredging permit update, if any?
Yeah, the comprehensive dredge permit, we received the RFPs back. We made a selection. We selected the Woods Hole Group. the Woods Hole group, we had a kickoff meeting. It was a Zoom. And next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, they're going to start to do bathymetric surveys of the 4 locations. And that should take about three days. So we'll be moving some docks around for them on Monday over at the Maritime Center because we have them bundled up so that they can get their small boat into these different areas. And I spoke to Jared Kalberg over at the Lobstermen's Association dock, and I asked them, let them know that they'll be over there also surveying those areas, and they're gonna try that. I had asked them when they go over, if they could have the boats cleared out of there on moorings for that time frame, so that they can get in there and do their work. It's gonna work out very well for us because Cole Parkway is not in place right now, other than the main and a couple of small sections. And then I spoke to Kevin Norton at the town pier about getting the boats out of there while they do their surveys, so that we can get a good solid survey of what the depths are and what the depths we want to be at.
All right. Yeah, the Woods Hole group is unrelated to my institution, but I know that group quite well, and so when I saw they were selected, it's like, that's a good group, you know what they're doing.
Did you, Stephen, get another grant since we met last? Or was
That's right. So I did apply for another grant for the Cole Parkway Marina project. I did, I put in a grant for $750,000. We were approved for $300,000 of additional funding for the Cole Parkway Marina project. So that was $300,000 is better than no dollars.
That's really good. Okay, moving on, agenda item number 7 is new business.
I was gonna stand up.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Kreutzberg.
I was tardy at the beginning of this, and I'd just like to ask if we might be able to adjust the agenda to accommodate an invited guest, Paul Barkowitz,
Yes.
give an update and a presentation on the Pier 44 Park project. I know this is out of order, but I wonder if we can accommodate that.
No, you're right, Howie. I forgot that because you weren't here to remind me and I was a little late. So, yeah, I think with the board's permission, we would move to item 8B, Pier 44 update. Paul, I would ask if you can keep your comments obviously full and complete, but relatively brief, maybe a 10-minute overview or something like that, that you can then, you and Mr. Kreutzberg can then, answer, questions we might have.
Rick, when we're talking about an adjustment to the schedule, would it be possible after that, if we can have Kevin Norton, because he has to.
On Fish Pier?
Yeah, after that, if that would be possible.
Sure.
Thank you.
I'll draw in a half hour, Ken. Okay, Paul.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, Howie.
Can you start
Paul
off with your,
Barkowitz.
name and address, please?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's Paul Barkowitz, 18 Damon Lane, Scituate.
Thank you.
So I'm Chair of the Scituate Harbor Advisory Redevelopment Commission, which we call the Pier 44 Commission. I'm the liaison from the Economic Development Commission. We also have liaisons from the Waterways Commission, there's Howie, the Recreation Commission, the Scituate Harbor Cultural District, the Commission on Disabilities, and the Select Board. Karen Connolly is our liaison from the Select Board, and then Corey Miles is our staff. I've got a PowerPoint presentation or a slide deck that I'd like to run through. I think I can share my screen, so let me put this up. Everyone see it?
Not yet, Paul. Not yet.
No.
That's all right. You want to minimize, Paul, just open it on your desktop first. If not, I can help you.
Yeah, I just opened it.
Okay. Now go back to Zoom. Good. And now share your screen again. You should see, before you even share your screen, you should see the icon on there. Yes.
Getting it. Let's see. I've got to. Where's the share my screen?
Bottom at the bottom, that green button, share screen.
Oh, okay. Yep.
When you
All
click that, then you should see your
Yep.
presentation. So click that.
Okay. How's that?
Not there yet. Not there yet. That's okay.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
There you go.
There we go.
Great. Okay. All right. I'll. This slide deck I think helps us kind of get through the deal. You know where Pier 44 is the existing community building, and you can see what's around it. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. Just a little review of the timeline. So in 2010, town meeting approved using MBTA mitigation funds to purchase the Pier 44 property. It had been considered for a condominium project. At that time, the town did a survey of department and commissions, and the consensus was the best use of the property would be for recreation. It was an online survey. Over 1,000 people participated. Again, the consensus was for open space recreation. The town commissioned a report that analyzed the characteristics of the property and potential uses, and the recommendation from that report was to demolish the building and develop a waterfront park. There was a hiatus for about 9 years while other projects moved forward, the senior center, the library, other projects. In 2021, there was another online survey. Again, more than 1,000 people participated, and the consensus was demolish the dilapidated community building and develop a park. And then our commission, our Pier 44 commission, was created. We've had 8 meetings of that commission between 2021 and 2022. And then in September 2022, through an RFP process where we got outstanding applicants, the Copley Wolf design team, that's a Boston firm, was selected for the site investigation and to develop concept plans for the park. One of the main issues that need to be evaluated just to see what was possible was the flood zoning requirements. This is in both parts of the property, the northern and the south part are in flood zones, as you can see on the image. It basically would require that any building be elevated 9 to 10 feet above the surface. So building would be on piers like you see around the lighthouse, Cedar Point. But unlike a private residence, of course, this building would have to have public access, which would require a ramp of 100 to 125 linear feet for universal access. So we concluded that it just wasn't feasible to have a closed-sided building on the property. We had wanted to potentially have at least a small building that would have a restroom, maybe the visitor center, and space for small meetings, but it's just not feasible. Here's another depiction of these zoning flood zone requirements. You can see the height of if we had an elevated building, you can see what the height would be. These are some techniques for providing flood zone and waterfront resiliency. And we'll be incorporating these kind of techniques, probably the softer techniques, to provide a resilient waterfront. This will be consistent with the master plan for the resilient harbor. The master plan for the harbor didn't go as far as Pier 44, but we've told the design consultants that we want to be consistent with the master plan for the harbor on flood resiliency. So based upon a lot of feedback, we've had 25 meetings, either meetings or presentations on the park, and getting feedback and suggestions on amenities, and also from the surveys I mentioned. So these are the elements that we've asked the design team to incorporate in their concepts. A coastal resilient waterfront, so we can really connect our community to the water. A boardwalk. Open lawn, it'd be a passive recreation. It would be drought resilient, turf. We wouldn't have sprinklers and things like that. Park benches, picnic tables. This property lends itself to a small pavilion for smaller events. The design consultants say about 100 would be right size for this. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the next slides. We'd like to have an observation deck, like the observation deck near the harbor master's office, maybe a little bigger. We'd want to incorporate cultural, historic, artistic features. We'd want to incorporate features that would be attractive to families with children. I mentioned that it's not feasible to have enclosed buildings, but we could definitely have a real upscale, nice, comfortable restroom. It could be different designs, but some are flood resilient, others are kind of like the facilities you see at upscale events, weddings, and things. They'd be portable. They'd be on a trailer, although it would look like they're not portable. And so when there's a flood event or in the winter season, these would be removed from the site. Parking's a big issue. We got feedback on parking from the whole gambit, from there shouldn't be any parking to there should be a lot of parking. And so we're trying to, we're working with the design team, trying to come up with alternatives that that hopefully reach a compromise on the need for parking. We're working with the sloop bus. We'll have a sloop bus stop, and ideally we'd like to have a loop, a regular loop of the sloop that would go from perhaps the Marina Pole Parkway to Pier 44 to the lighthouse. So there'd be regular service, and people would have an expectation that they could get use that bus service. There's also the possibility that the launch could be used to ferry people around, and including to get to Pier 44. There's mini transportation, so there's lots of options that we're looking at. There's also, of course, a lot of people that live very close and easy walking distance to the park. So now we get into concepts, and these are, I'm going to show you 3 concepts that show different configurations, different parking, different aspects of the pavilion, different treatments of an observation deck. And the goal would be to continue to get feedback on these concepts. We're going to have an online survey that will go live and open for about 3 weeks this month of February. We plan to have 2 public meetings in early March, probably the first week of March, one at the daytime and one at the nighttime. And then when we get the feedback, we'll develop one concept that will bring to town meeting and move forward. And so it's not a case of, you know, you choose concept 1, but not 2 or 3, or 2, but not 1 or 3. It's really, here are different configurations. We can mix and match. We can do a conglomeration of all 3 concepts into one. So that's the kind of feedback. What do you like of this concept? What do you like of the other concept? And all that information will be used by our commission and working with a consultant to develop a preferred concept. This particular, so this first one, let's look at it. You can see the parking. It's got 10 spaces. It's got a pavilion. That's the white part over on the right. On the left, those 2 square boxes would be where the restroom goes. It would have a boardwalk. It would have a really cool feature, some steps. They wouldn't go all the way to the water, but these steps are oriented right at the lighthouse. So you'd come in and you'd have a view, and the water would be lapping up on the steps. There'd be railings that, you know, be protect. Like if you look in the picture in the upper right, you can see kind of a configuration of what those might look like. Okay, concept 2, more parking. This is 14 spaces. It's 14% of the site. The parking, the pavilion is on the south side. There's an observation deck that would be on piers. This broken dashed line indicates the access that this property has to the harbor. So these would be on piers. Again, it'd be akin to what's at the harbor master's office, a little different configuration. The pink thing is just kind of space, put something cool. It could be, you see the swings on the upper right picture. You can put swings there. Who knows what? This is concept 3. You can see the parking here is 10 spaces. It's on the right side as you look at it, adjacent to the parking lot at the marina. The pavilion's in the middle. Again, you got the boardwalk, you've got the steps that orient towards lighthouse. You've got these open lawn areas. You can see where the sloop bus stop would be. And then you can see the different terracing configurations for the resilient waterfront. So this shows all 3 of them in one place. And as I said, we'll be seeking further feedback from the online survey and the public meetings, and again, come up with a preferred concept. Let me talk about the pavilion. What we talked about having is a space that would be covered so we have some shade. This is, you know, for small events, but it could be the yoga class that goes there, or if it's raining, you know, it's a little space to get out of the rain. You know, there's different approaches in these design concepts. This one's called the wave. It's really an architectural feature. When you see this, you'd identify it with Scituate Harbor. Yes, this is the wave. That's that cool pavilion roof at Scituate Harbor. Next one's a different approach. This goes with concept 2. It extends out with the observation pier. It's called the reflected pier. So it's got like a design in the ceiling that is suggestive of the ripples and waves in the harbor. This third is called the Harborside Gable, and that's it's kind of a barn type structure. It's not a uniform length. It gives it some distinctive character. This one's you know, probably more traditional than the other 2. Okay, so outreach and schedule. an important issue, of course, before construction or as part of the construction, will be demolish the building. And this is probably in the 2025 timeframe. So we've worked with Wayne Devon with the town, has a list of every user of the community building and has identified potential alternative sites. There's space for everybody. We've given presentations to the Community Preservation Committee, the Town Design Review Team, the Advisory Committee. We've presented to them already. We've got another presentation coming up on February 9th, and then another presentation to the Select Board at the end of February. We've identified all the adjacent property owners, businesses, community organizations, and we've got, as Howie can tell you, we've got a plan to reach out to everybody that's affected and might be interested, all the Chamber of Commerce, the harbor merchants, you name it, will be on the list. And then each of our commission members will be assigned to make those contacts and presentation, get that feedback. I mentioned the online survey this month, 2 public meetings in early March. And this will culminate with the April 10th town meeting. After the public meetings in March and the other outreach efforts, we'll work with a consultant to develop a preferred alternative that will take the town meeting. We'll also, at town meeting, we'll seek approval of CPC funding for pre-construction work. CPC has approved $300,000 grant for our pre-construction work. Of course, that's subject to approval of the advisory committee, the select board, and town meeting. Then after town meeting, when we're approved, we'll then work with the consultant on final design, environmental review, engineering, actually obtaining the permits, having a cost estimate, securing funding, and preparing the construction bid documents. I mentioned finding spaces for the existing uses. Here are just some of them that would be available, and we'll reach out to every one of those users and make sure they've got a space. And of course, the park will provide space for activities that currently don't have a space. Funding is important. So in terms of this pre-construction funding, we have a grant already of $100,000 that Corey Miles applied for and obtained from the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission. As I mentioned, CPC's approved $300,000. Of course, it's pending to the other approvals. And then we have $224,000 remaining from the MBTA mitigation funds. So that's pre-construction, and some of that could be used for the actual construction. And then Copley Wolf, one of the strengths of their proposal was to identify funding sources. They've been very successful in other projects in getting funding. And so here's a list of just some of the potential sources of grant funding. So we're really excited about the project. We see this as our vision is this would be an iconic gateway to our historic Scituate Harbor. It would be part of the fabric of the community for generations to come. The calling card for Scituate will be, meet us at Pier 44. This will be the place where you go for your prom pictures and to get engaged and your wedding pictures, and then to bring your children. So we're really excited about it. Howie's been an amazing asset. Craig was before him. And so we're happy to make this presentation. We hope that you could provide a letter to the town, to the select board, indicating support for our CPC funding grant, and that we'd like to be able to, at town meeting, to identify all the commissions and groups that are supporting park and our proposal. One other thing, we plan to form a Friends of Pier 44 fundraising and this to supplement whatever services and amenities we want to provide beyond what the town can do. So with that, I appreciate the time. Howie and I,
Yeah, thank you, Paul.
welcome your comments as well.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. If you could stop screen sharing, please, so we can see everybody in all their glory. That would be great. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. Howie, do you have any add-on you would like to put forth?
Yeah, I want to thank Paul and the rest of this particular commission, the Pier 44 Commission, for the amount of time and effort they put in to come up with designs from a very qualified design group in Boston, as well as environmental engineers, as we try to leverage what the best approach for the property is. And Paul and company has gone out of his way to begin to touch base with as many people as he can to give everyone a sense of what we can do with the property and how it may look. And he's looking for input as to features that we might be able to enhance as we go down the road. We have an aggressive schedule, that being trying to get this information before town meeting in April and get some funding from CPC, hopefully. But again, I just want to thank Paul, and we look forward to whatever comments the rest of our commission might have on this.
All right, thank you, Howie. Questions from commissioners on Zoom? Dave Sinkowski? You're on mute, Dave.
You'd think I get better at this. No, I was just wondering about keeping the private marinas from using this public area as their own, whether it be the parking or the bathrooms. Is there any thought on how to, or is it possible at all?
Well, of course, there'll be signage. The bathrooms will be open to the public. So I think I don't know how you prevent the public from using them if we'd want to. On the bathrooms, we'll have an outside contract to provide the bathrooms and the maintenance of those. So those will be something we can be proud of, and we wouldn't have a problem with your family using them. So in terms of the parking, the parking is a big deal, and it's a real challenge in this kind of a site. I don't think the town paid $1.75 million for a parking lot. But some people we've talked to would like this just be a parking lot with a little grass area next to it. In terms of the marina using it, we'll have signage, and I think we'll have to see how it goes. We're working with the police department on this concept and addressing parking issues. So that's a big issue, no question.
Just for your knowledge, and you maybe your board has already discussed this, but we have for many years internally at the Waterways debated the Jericho ramp parking and how that should be managed. And I think with this pending success, you're going to draw even more and more people, which is wonderful, but it will put more pressure on these limited parking spots. And collectively, we're going to have to come up with a solution.
And again, we're hoping that the transportation, like the sloop, mini transportation. We also, there's nothing assured in this, but Barker Taverns been sold. We understand it's going to be oriented more toward events and not a full-time restaurant. It's got a huge parking lot, and we plan to talk with the new owners, and I don't think it's closed yet, about having access to maybe the lower portion of that parking on times when there are not events. And, so that would really take a lot of the burden off.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Brian?
Yes, thank you. So Paul, thanks very much, Howie, and the rest of the commission. We really appreciate your hard work on this. The PowerPoint or the PDF is certainly impressive, and I'm sure it'll be even more impressive when it's finally done. One question I did have was there any consideration given to some of the hard surface having something along the lines of a splash pad that I've seen in a number of other waterfront parks, which attracts obviously young kids during the day to be able to utilize that?
Yes, Brian. I mean, we want to have features that are attractive to families with children. And so the splash pad is in the mix. We've kind of avoided making a firm commitment to it in terms of the concepts because there are maintenance considerations and use of water and things like that. So we've kind of dealt with it generically under the category of things that are attractive to children, families with children. We want families to use this park and enjoy it. And yeah, we've seen the splash pads. I've seen them. I love them. I know Howie's a big proponent of them as well. So if there's a way to do that, I'm sure we will. But we don't want to. We've been hesitant to commit to something like that without sorting through all the other issues.
Thank you.
Any questions in the room from commissioners? Comments?
I would just make a comment to Paul, say, great presentation. That was very informative. Appreciate all the hard work you're doing on it. I think one thing that we've always said from the beginning for that spot is that we'd love it if there could be some sort of shoreside access, right? For a small boat, a launch, paddle craft or something else so that people can get there if they're coming in from a boat on a dinghy, you know. Not a huge dock or anything like that. I'm just talking about some space where people can pull in, tie up or pull up, so.
It's my understanding there's a launch in the marina that people could use to access the property. I mean, Howie, you and the rest of you probably know more about that than I do.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about, Mike, is the if we could have a float, because we have looks like we have some land in front of the property that's on the water sheet. And if we could have a small float, maybe that could handle inflatables or kayaks or whatever, it would just be another means of access that might make this site even more dynamic.
Yeah, especially if we know we're gonna have limited car parking or vehicle parking, where it gives you another means for people to use the property, so.
Great idea. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to add in, I really am impressed with the presentation, Paul, you and your team have put together, and also the clear amount of transparency you're bringing to the process with all your public meetings and engagement with outreach, both up to this point and coming forward with, surveys and all that sort of stuff. It's very well done. Regarding a potential waterways support letter, as we get closer to that time, please circle back to us as things get a little more focused so we know exactly what we're writing a letter about. But I don't see any difficulties with that because this can be a very vital component of overall waterfront access for the community, which we certainly support.
Thank you.
I also do like Mr. Gibbons's idea about somehow getting a, engineering in where a potential float could eventually be put to allow people to come on in from a different pathway.
Yeah, I personally would love it.
Yeah. So, any comments?
I mean, it just reinforces there's more ways to get around than just the car.
Yeah.
And particularly on the harbor.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. And they all promise not to get off the dock and walk down to your house at Damon Road, but it still would be good to get people out.
I'm on Damon Lane, so.
Oh, Damon Lane, okay.
Not Damon Road.
Yeah, all right, good. So anyways, but it would be good because then people can get out and start walking around and all that other stuff. All right, any other comments or questions from the audience? Zoom land audience or real audience?
Brad has a question.
Okay, Brad, hey, Brad from the car.
Brad's in the car. You're looking in my ear. Sorry, because I lost my signal. Do we know the history?
Brad,
do we know the history?
Brad, can you please give us your name and address?
Sure, Brad White, 149 Old Main, Marshfield Hills, Massachusetts.
Okay, go ahead.
Two things. Do we have a history as to, first, Paul, great presentation. Really nice to see the as-builts, and it inspired an idea for me for tonight. But do we know why it's called Pier 44? As a kid growing up in Scituate, it's always been Pier 44, but there aren't 44 piers. Is there any history behind that?
It's the address is 44 Jericho Road.
Oh, it's 44 Jericho.
I think that's
Okay.
what it is.
Well, I just had a thought. You know, when you drive into Gloucester, I'm in Gloucester quite frequently. They have a signature image piece logo, which is the fisherman with the sou'wester hat on and blowing in the wind. You know, when this comes to fruition, my recommendation would be maybe a presentation.
Maybe a casting of Dave Doc.
That could be pretty cool to have have something really special.
So Brad, you're breaking up, but we get the point, and I think that could certainly be surfaced as an idea during the public feedback. And I see Paul writing that down as a note. It's kind of a cool idea as part of the it could be a little bit of a magnet as well for people to come in there, a little plaque or what have you in addition.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Don't go driving off the road.
Yeah, it just, just to follow up with Brad's comment. So on Economic Development Commission, we've had a concept for promoting Scituate as a dock to dish community. And, we see an event, at least an annual event, be a dinner right at Pier 44 in the pavilion or out maybe on the observation deck or a combination of both. It'd be a fundraiser. It would get a lot of publicity. It would turn into quite an event. It would promote the harbor and our obviously fresh, direct from the ocean seafood. So that's kind of a brand that economic development's been thinking of, but would fit really well with this property, and of course incorporate Cold Parkway and the rest of the harbor as well.
Right.
One thing I ask is that you find this online survey when it comes on. We'll also have a dedicated website. We have the Shark website that has a lot of information, but then we'll have a dedicated website just for the park concept. Participate in the survey, tell your friends and neighbors about it, and then tell them about the town, the two meetings, and they'll be advertised for early March. So we'd love to have great turnout and really appreciate all the comments. I will definitely bring these back to the other commissioners and the design team.
Thank you, Paul, very much. And Howie, we'll rely on you to keep reminding us and informing us about various websites and surveys and calendars and so on.
Great.
All right,
And if
Paul.
anyone would like a copy of the PDF of the slide deck, Howie's got it. And he can,
I'm happy to forward that.
That's great. All right, thank you very much, Paul. And
Great.
Howie.
Thanks all. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you, Howie.
Thank you.
So at Harbor Master's request, which I think is a good one, we'll move now to 8E. I think it is Town Fish Pier Regulations Update. Kevin Norton.
Yeah, so I just want to start off by saying that how appreciative we are officially at the top here. We really are. So this is, part of these rules are, we have a set of rules in here already, adding a few things over the last few years. We want to be good tenants. A few of these things are just things that have come up throughout the town. I talked to Steve with it, about it, and a lot of the things are self-explanatory, but they just things we want to add on to the rules we already have.
Yep.
We appreciate all the town does. We want to stay good tenants. We want to work well with businesses in the harbor, share parking, all the different things we do. And it's, without that pier, we're all out. It's a big deal for us.
Yeah.
So the things that we've added to the list, I have a client box here, you guys, but is you want me to read them off yet? There's only a few businesses.
Sure.
So keeping the length of the vessels with a 44-foot minimum and a 72-foot maximum. I don't know if you want me to explain each one, let's just go through it.
Let's go through it.
Vessels at the pier need to be federally permitted with a limited access permit.
Gotcha.
That.
Understood.
Everyone understands that?
Yeah.
We're gonna try to keep the pier 10 vessels. Talk to Steve about that, try to make it so that, you know,
Okay.
it's not crazy out there. Lobster bait on the pier can be left overnight, but it can't be stored on the pier.
Gotcha.
It's a small issue we have with the restaurants, thank you, lobster. Want to just nip that. Vessels can't stay tied up for more than 3 months at a time. Another issue.
That aren't operating.
They're not operating, so you can't just tie it, you can't just pull a boat in there, leave it there, and come back and, you know, leave it there in the winter and come back in the spring and go fishing. You know, that is a full-time fishing pier. Every bun down there works year-round, so we want to keep it so that boats, we don't have someone that's just, it's not being used for storage.
So can someone go there, tie up for 89 days, go out for a day trip and come back and there they go?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough,
I mean,
that's how it goes.
You gotta have some,
You have to have
a
some
line
kind of-
somewhere, yeah.
Right, we have to have lines, so, vessels to be on, vessel owners need to be on site during storm events.
Yeah.
Another issue we've had where, you know, we need everybody there in a big storm. Lines start breaking, you know, we need to have everybody there, we need to have boats running, can't have people MIA. This is all stuff that we wanna self-police ourselves, but we wanna get it right. You know, we do a pretty good job with this ourselves, but we've had a few issues over the years and we need to,
Is it boat owner or their designee?
yeah, the designee, we can make it designee. But someone needs to be there.
Understood.
And guys are good. If we have someone that's on vacation, February, say, hey, can you take care of one, keep an eye on my boat, that's fine, we're good with that. During the water ban, the water on the pier can only be used for, tenants' water tanks.
Yeah.
People washing cars, trucks, boats, you know, we can't really enforce that. We put locks on the water hoses last year, but
During the water ban.
you know,
Someone in.
it's all good, you know what I mean? It's just a way for us to make a rule on something.
Cement trucks.
So far, these are very reasonable.
And then we also put on here that unauthorized vessels can be fined up to $1,000 a day. So this is boats that are just
That's good.
left there and like we have to deal with. So that's the way that Steve, we can put some teeth in it and maybe with a fine. The last thing is lobster traps and fishing equipment can only be left on the pier for 24 hours. So that's something we're all a little guilty of, including myself. So just trying to keep the pier a little neater. The other one thing I just want to explain, a lot of people don't know about the pier is a lot of times there's a pile of trash there. That trash is taken in from us while we're fishing. So a lot of that trash, you'll see a couch, you'll see a barrel, you'll see a, you know, whatever. That stuff that we take in, we drag up off the bottom, and instead of throwing it overboard, we bring it in. It goes into a pile, and then it goes to the harbor master,
We go down and
takes it.
collect it.
Get in the couch.
Bring it down, so I have a grant, and there's two big dumpsters.
Yeah.
And we put the fishing gear on metal or the nets, that's going one, fishing gear goes another, and then couches, we kind of.
So I think sometimes people see a pile of lawn furniture or a pile of crap down there and say, what is all this stuff? But
Yeah, these guys
it's, I would much rather see that on the pier going into the dumpster than us kicking it back over the side again after we catch it. You know, we have a huge problem with plastic pollution. I'm not gonna contribute to it. So I take it all.
Absolutely.
So
Can you put signage down there to let
we
people
have a
know what
small
you're
sign,
There is a
we
sign
do,
down there.
but I would definitely like to make it so that people know,
Yeah.
a little bit more educated on what we do.
I can get a real sign made.
Get a sign.
Yeah, so,
advertise the good.
So those all sound great. I mean,
you know, we have a few other things, issues over the last year we had, and I didn't put on the list, because I think for the most part, we have a real good group of guys out there. You know, there was a complaint this year about people running generators at night. As soon as we heard the complaint, it stopped.
Yeah.
You know, lights at night stopped, you know, so I think everyone down there, it's all family businesses, they're all town people. So, I mean, everyone's good, but these are just things that we have to put in writing. So if we have an issue, we can say, we have an.
so I just have a question for you, just curiosity. 10, you chose 10.
Yeah.
Where'd that come from?
Well,
When you do a layout, does that work out?
when we do the layout,
Generally speaking.
that's how it works.
Okay.
So we can get boats on both sides.
Yeah.
And so that we can double them up.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and that's the same thing with the size of the length, with the length.
Correct.
You know, if we get more than about 72 feet, we can't double up on the sides.
Understood.
And when we get above smaller than 42, it's hard. It's
You
hard
can't
to
tie up to it.
Correct.
It's hard to
That makes sense.
How many are there today?
Right now, today, there is 9.
Yeah,
There's 9.
I think we have 12 permitted.
12 permitted, 9 there.
Yeah.
We have a few fishermen one fisherman sold his boat this year, we haven't decided what he's gonna do next year. So, yeah, we have a couple up in the air.
So I think before we get to questions, I guess write it up as a draft.
I just made it.
Yeah, but I mean, right, but as a formal policy that to you,
Yeah,
and then you would bring to us to discuss as an agenda item, and then we can vote to.
So I guess
I thought that's what this
if we
was,
add to the
because
town here.
this has been on this would just go on the rules and regulations.
Yeah, we would need to see it in writing ahead of time so we could
Okay.
As you
digest
can
it.
incorporate it into the current rules.
That's what the plan would be.
Yeah.
I think the rules.
So I think just for our next meeting, and the timeframe should be.
I'll just leave you these. and you can
Just
go.
leave us these, we'll put it in, so it will be part of the official record, and we can read it ahead of time.
Right.
Discuss and vote.
And the one other quick update for the pier is, we were hoping, we talked, you got Frank to talk to, I wasn't here for this either, with the ice machine.
Yeah.
Talking about that, type of- and you know, we've kind of learned just recently that the grant money that's available would not be able to be used for that. And it's also about $1 million project, and we're thinking now that it's kind of way out of reach for us in the near future. We do appreciate it.
$1 million to do one of those ice machines?
Yes. New ice machines are nice.
So any questions from the Zoom room in, it was a high level oral presentation, but then, as I said, we'll have this in writing and distribute it ahead of time, and it should be a pretty quick event at our next meeting in terms of process. Okay, and Kevin, just leave me with that, that'll be great.
Appreciate it.
All right, really good work, and I appreciate your expression of appreciation to us, but you say.
Well, the town's done a really great job of keeping our fees where they're at, and it's
Yeah.
very helpful, because like this year, we just took another 80% cut in our fishing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if we would have increases with it, we really have to work together if we want to keep.
We
that
want
up.
to keep this
And we
going.
appreciate it.
We wanna keep it
really do.
going.
Everyone down there appreciates it.
All right, awesome, so just make sure we get those, okay? All right, so we're gonna go backwards now to 7, a new business for I think it's a brief announcement essentially, but about the North and South River Clam Flat closure.
I don't know anything about. Not me.
I think it was 26 days or.
21 days.
Yeah, 21 days until further notification.
Started on the
Started on
26th of
26th.
January due to a challenge with a sewer treatment plant in Rockland. I talked with DeMayo the other day. They had a release of just under 100,000 gallons. They don't think it's gonna go too far, they just wanna shut everything down for 21 days to make sure that nothing's gonna get infected. They have the discretion to make it a longer period, but right now Mike seems to feel that 21 days would be the job.
Cool. All right, just wanted to put that on there for everybody's perusal and so on. Okay. Just some items as our old business updates, if any. But there were several about Maritime Center parking lot. And perhaps Maritime Center scheduling. I made a few calls and was playing phone tag and was unable to follow up, so I haven't done my homework. Any other updates?
Sure, I talked to Jim today.
Okay.
He's looking at regrading the parking lot, as well as looking to put an apron at the entryway, because it's been expressed that that's kind of what's
Yeah.
causing all the divots.
Yeah.
But obviously won't be looking at it until all the boats are removed, right?
Yeah.
So they're in the water, because we do have a small contracting, a small paving services contract already in place. So we can move forward with it. So he'll be taking a look at that
Well, that's
for
great.
later in the spring, which is good. And just know that the apron though would be contingent upon conservation,
Understood.
so
Yeah.
that they would have to go through that.
Yeah.
So there's that, which is good. The punch list that we provided to facilities in November, after our walkthrough of the Maritime Center itself, is all in the process of being worked
Oh,
on.
that's awesome.
As far as scheduling, I don't know that you're gonna get very far with that. So, obviously there'll be attempts to be made that it's not scheduled to impede upon, the busy boat days, but,
Do what we
and
can.
for safety, I think you just
And I think also
keep the lines
enhancing,
of communication open.
enhancing the communications on that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. Okay. Any questions? Okay. We did Pier 444, Harbor Wi-Fi. Any update on that?
Yeah, I think you met.
I think we're-
Do you know with Howie? Yeah.
I think where we left off, Rick, on that was our meeting with Jim Boudreau back in December,
Okay,
at which time he
Yep.
said he was going to revisit that and resolve it prior to the boating season.
yeah.
Yep.
That was what,
He reaffirmed that.
so Maura just said he reaffirmed that as well. So it looks like things are moving ahead. We'll stay on top of. Good, that's great. Good teamwork, folks, between the different boards and people. Really appreciate that. Okay, number 9, financial update. Brian, did you have some high-level comments I thought you were gonna make?
I can do this very quickly. So.
Whatever you need, Brian.
Thank you. So very quickly on the Cole Parkway project, because of Stevens and the team's additional grant, we have about $1.6 million of, want of a better word, cash on hand to be able to apply to a project that's going to cost currently $2.2 million. So we're looking at the requirement to finance somewhere in the vicinity of $650,000. We have a credit vehicle available to us where we have the ability to go up to $1 million. Obviously, we're not going to need quite that amount. So I've already done some projections. If we had to go to $725,000, a 10-year note would start at $100,000. It's front-end loaded. It would drop from there. In 2025 fiscal year, our debt service drops by almost $200,000. So we've got plenty of cushion to be able to do that as we projected. So we're in good shape on that. Jumping over to the dredge project, or rather the Woods Hole project. So again, great job getting a $367,000 grant. However, we have a $460,000 payment to them. We have about 5 different sources, pools of money that we can pull from that will adequately serve that. So again, we're in good shape on that without having to go to any type of credit financing. However, the concern I have on 2 items is once we finally do the South River, we have about $271,000 of earmarked money to be able to utilize on that project. And I feel it's going to be probably pretty insufficient. And secondly, when we finally do the harbor dredge, we're not going to know how much, even a ballpark on that, but I believe it could approach, or not approach, but I believe it could be in the $2 million range. Stephen, jump in if you think I'm being way out of bounds on that. If so,
I think you're in good, I think you're pretty close.
okay. If so, we get a 50-50 on that, correct, Stephen? Hopefully, a grant. So we'd need to finance another $1 million. So we're sitting out here looking probably to have to come up with another $200,000 for the South River project and then $1 million, so $1.2 million. So I'm going to once again relook at the current slip and mooring rates of all the surrounding communities and be able to report back to the committee. Not saying that's a level we want to pull, but I want to be able to present it to everybody at an appropriate time in the next meeting or 2.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's information we need to have so we can make an informed decision. The mere gathering of data does not at all portend any change necessarily or not, but we just have to have that data. So I appreciate you doing that homework on that, Brian.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So there's one more item, part of the Cole Parkway Marina project. I received a memo from the engineer, the GEI consulting, regarding the operational criteria at the Cole Parkway Marina project. And this is based on the recommendations based on the mooring system that is in place now, today, at Cole Parkway Marina. Operational criteria: water elevation, highest still water elevation, 50-year event, 14 foot plus mean low water. Wave conditions, significant wave heights, 2 feet, wave period 2 to 3 seconds. Winds conditions 60 miles an hour sustained from any direction on the Beaufort scale, 10 winds. Based on the criteria above, GEI recommends all vessels except emergency response vessels to be removed from the marina when either of the following criteria are forecast to occur to prevent damage to the marina. Tides predicted at above 14 feet and winds sustained at above 60 miles an hour. All emergency vessels should be removed from the marina when either of the following criteria are forecasted to prevent damage to the marina. Tides predicted above 14.5 feet, mean low water, winds sustained at above 70 miles an hour. So this
Says 60. Oh, 70, sorry, yeah.
That's for the emergency vessels.
Yeah.
And so what they're basically recommending is if it's a hurricane or just short of a hurricane, that the boats have to leave the marinas.
And in terms of the tides, with the most recent high tide, low tides,
The
what were we
13,
at?
it was above 13 feet in 17 when I went in the drink.
Oh.
So
These
it's
last
pretty
What was
sustained.
what was last week, just 11?
I think it was 11.5.
11.
Yeah.
Okay, that helps. Thank you.
Yeah.
Little
We
calibration.
got other issues going on in town other than the marina, but we don't want all the boats in the marsh.
So that's,
Across.
so that's a recommendation from the builders of
The consultants, the engineers.
so that's pretty fair.
Yeah, that's pretty strict. Sustained too.
Sustained,
That's-
yeah, sustained, it's not Gus, you know.
Sustained. Gus 60 all the time.
Yeah, sustained is completely different. I mean,
Yeah.
It's honking,
Yeah,
I'm
you
aware.
know,
you don't want to be anywhere near there.
no.
Okay,
So it's just one of the things, and it may be something that, you know, goes into the contract at some point.
all right, thank you, Steve.
Always all the best.
Okay, so agenda item 10 is just a list with a lot of people's help. You have something else to say?
I did, I had just one other thing
Oh.
before we move along, so I should have mentioned it under old business, but in December, we had talked about Cohasset's, Cohasset has had a citizen's petition that went
Yes.
forward. Yeah, they did approve kind of that petition at town meeting. So now they're going towards the process, from what I understand, put the bylaw in place to take control over portions of Scituate Waterways, right? So I just feel like as an entity, unless we're told otherwise, right, it should be something that we're tracking and following the waterways. So I was just recommending we put it on old business and try to somehow keep abreast of what's happening there, so.
Okay, so for,
Unless we're told because of litigation that we don't want to be speaking about it.
this is really a matter between the official town of Scituate and the official town of Cohasset as to whether they can annex use of our property.
Correct, yeah. But it is waterways in Scituate, and it is something that, you know, affects all of us, so if you say the town's handling it,
So
we
is
don't
the
need to be involved, that's fine. I just don't-
I'm gonna,
I can tell you that it is with the Attorney General's office.
Okay, yeah.
and we we appreciate the effort that the town is expending on the behalf of the town.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that something's happening. I keep reading these updates.
No.
From Cohasset, so.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Agenda item.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Yes, Brian.
Thanks, Mike, for bringing that up. And if we can add this to old business just to keep in front of us, because whether we write a letter at some point as the board and direct it to the select board, or we decide, if Cohasset can do it, why don't we just take Marshfield's land as well?
I would prefer, to be honest, Brian, I would prefer, given that this is being handled by town council and the hired town, and and the Massachusetts Attorney General is working on it. I would rather not just keep revisiting it under old business and just, I will stay in touch with our board representative, Board of Selectmen representative, should there be a need for updates or further action. So if we can handle it that way, I think it's probably best, given the Attorney General gets involved.
Thank you, Mr.
Well,
Thank you.
the Attorney General's involved because any act of the legislature has to go in front of them to be approved. So they have to approve the Cohasset bylaw. That's
that makes sense.
that's the process.
Yep. So I appreciate the sentiment, and we will absolutely follow through on the sentiment, okay? But in terms of the other.
So Mr. Chairman, what about taking Marshfield's land? Is that off the board?
Well, along with water negotiations, I once suggested when I sat up here that we put a casino down in Hummerock. But that was a different time. Okay, agenda item 10 is just, I decided to put on there, and working with a lot of people, Alicia and other folks, Dave helped out a lot. A calendar of where we are to the end of this calendar year so people can plan accordingly. And we'll just keep lining up, that list will get shorter, every agenda that you see. By explanation, 6 o'clock start time was requested from several folks, makes sense to me. For June and July, we wanted to start it on Tuesdays because Wednesday is PHRF sailing. And a lot of people like to do that. August, as of now, a lot of people are away anyways. We work hard enough. Hey, let's take off August. And then the rest are there as you can see. So I'd like to thank everybody for their help in getting that there. We will stick to this schedule as best we can.
Any way we could possibly do to 7s, or was it a bunch of people that needed?
There's some reasons for 6.
Yeah, 6 is tough.
It is. It's tough. No, it is. Yeah. Okay, participant Q&A, any issue from the audiences to bring up? Okay, before I entertain a motion to adjourn, I'd like to thank Seth for his help on the Zoom, and Andrew, your help as well. Yes.
Sorry, just quickly, it's late, so on the next meeting, can we put a new business to have an update on the kayaks that were, I think the purchase orders went out in October.
I can give you an update right now if you'd like. The kayak racks were ordered.
That was October. Any idea when they're coming or signage?
He doesn't want to start making them until they're ready to go in, so it's not going to be till the springtime.
I'll add it into the agenda though, so even if it's just exactly the same thing, at least it'll track through and we can keep an eye on that date, okay?
Yes, thank you. I mean, we have to start advertising at some point and for the public to apply for these things, signage, all that happy stuff.
Yep, exactly. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Seth and Andrew. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, Brian Kelly, Howie Kreutzberg, Dave Sinkowski, Mike Gibbons, Mr. Cronin, Dave and Rick. Aye.